and welcome to one of my now all too common little geeky ramble babble type videos. That's why I'm calling them now, ramble babbles. Why not? So anyway, that can only mean one thing, right? You know, if I'm talking about a collection of some sort, it must mean that it was going to be a Ben's Junk Week and what I was going to cover just totally fell through. That happened and then some. So I had 5 items in my immediate queue to do a Ben's Junk on. 1 was completely dead on arrival. 2 need extensive repairs. 1 needs a not so extensive repair, but one that's just out of my skill set. And then 1 that may wind up being one of those weird whole number archive episodes where it's just as much a Ben's Junk as anything else, but there's just a little too much history lesson to give, that sort of deal. So anyway, the main thing that I really wanted to cover this week finally was linear stereo on VHS tapes, so as opposed to hi-fi audio. And I've accrued 3 of those VCRs and none of them work properly. So I had dug out my small handful of linear stereo tapes to hopefully really check it out. And obviously that hasn't happened. But I suppose this is the pick of the litter in a way. Elephant Parts, Michael Nesmith. And if you know that name and know his history, you know where I'm going with this. Yeah, we're going to do a little monkeying around today. As in, hey, we're the Monkees. So this is going to be truly an odd one on my part. Hey, Oddity Archive. In that I'm not just going to show collection stuff, but I'm just going to kind of do my own little history with the group, and I'll pull things out as they become pertinent to the discussion. So with that, we'll start at the beginning. I remember the Monkees from a pretty early age, hearing them on the oldie station around my parents. But starting in 95 or 6, Nick at Night started running reruns of their old TV show. So I'll just put this out so you have something to look at. But I fell in love with that show immediately. But not being the smartest kid in the world, I suppose I was 10 or so, I thought, oh man, this is a real band living in kind of a rundown beach house, and every day is just this odd kind of weird hybrid of the Marx Brothers and the Little Rascals. Again, I wasn't the smartest kid, but then I found that, they didn't really, play all that much on the records. They didn't write all that much of it, and so on and so forth. And it went, I hate you now. But then I warmed back up soon thereafter. But in that initial honeymoon period, I taped some of those airings off of Nick at Night, and I know I've got one tape of it kicking around somewhere in my seemingly bottomless pit of old tapes. So I haven't run into it lately, but next time I see it, I'll have to pull it and just take a look at it, maybe pull the commercials from it. It probably would have been summer of 96, if I had to guess. So anyway, also in 96... Rhino, we're going to see a lot of Rhino stuff today. And I like the old Rhino label too. The truly old irreverent Rhino records. They started putting out these tapes, 2 episodes apiece of seemingly 2 disparate episodes of the Monkees. So instead of 2, originally aired back-to-back episodes 1 week after another, you get usually 1 from season 1 and then 1 from season 2. It only ran 2 seasons. So you'd wind up with kind of a bit of whiplash going on, because you get one of the more sweet, innocent first season episodes, and then you'd get one of the really whacked out season 2 episodes, especially the later, those last, 6 to 10 episodes or so of it. But I had a whole bunch of these things at one point, and these things were pretty affordable. I think they were $10 a pop, if memory serves. But I accrued a bunch of these things, and then I gave most of them to the Goodwill. But this is the only one of those that I've saved. All the other ones went to the Goodwill eventually, because in, I guess it would have been 04 or so, I got the series on DVD. So this has been reissued a couple of times since then, and this is on Blu-ray now. I was looking at the Blu-ray, but it is so pricey that I just haven't been able to justify the cost. But yeah, great sets. You know, the quality is real good on these, but I hate the packaging. I mean, they made it look like one of those old portable radio turntable deals that you'd like take to the beach with you back in the 60s. But yeah, and yeah, these are the things that were between the shrink wrap and the disc. I just never threw them out. But yeah, these things, this is about the quality of a Big Mac box here. But it's a nice set. Again, the quality of the episodes is really good, and everything is made to look like the old picture sleeve 45s. So, I mean, you know, Rhino did put some love into these sets in the final days of the real classic Rhino records. But yeah. So sticking with that initial kind of honeymoon period with the group, on those Nick at Night reruns, and hopefully I've got the ad somewhere on one of my tapes, but there was a commercial, a per inquiry ad that would run all the time on those reruns for this then recent greatest hits compilation. And here it is. And I actually picked this up at Target in 96 or 7, I guess. And I didn't even own a CD player yet. This was, I think, the third CD I owned, but if I wanted to listen to a CD, I had to go to my mom's stereo. It wasn't until a little later on that I got my own. But yeah, I played this thing right into the ground, except for the last two tracks, the two 80s tunes that they threw on at the end. Yeah, they just felt like such whiplash to me after the other, 18 cuts on here. I eventually, in more recent years, have kind of warmed up to those two 80s tunes, but yeah, it's kind of a bad fit with the rest of this set. So anyway, I mentioned I kind of fell out of love with them for a while, but then picked back up. This probably would have been 99 or so. And then I started accruing the albums. And so, let's see if I can do this without making a mess. Here is all the ones I could find. So this is all the studio albums up through Pool It, 1987. I could have sworn I had a copy of Just Us from 96 or 7, but if I have it, I absolutely cannot find it. And I don't have either of those final reunion ones from 2012 or so. But anyway, all but two of these were picked up between, we'll say, 99 and 03. And I know 03, certainly for this hideously overcompressed set, but a really good selection of songs. So if you need a starter, in spite of the sound, this is probably the one to start with. But the two that were picked up in more recent years, here's one that was a thrift store find, the Then and Now set from 1986, which coincided with the big MTV revival that they had in 86, 87, when MTV was airing reruns of their show. And then just over the holidays, this last Christmas, New Year's season, I paid way too much money for a copy of the infamous Pool It album. And when I posted this picture to the Facebook and Twitter pages, it got way more of a response than I thought it would. And I guess that was kind of an impetus behind this. And if it got that kind of discussion on social media, then maybe it'll get that kind of discussion here. But anyway, yeah, the breakdown is as follows. All the studio albums up through Pool It, and of course the Rhino sets were the new ones, most recent ones at the time. Then we got the 3 Missing Links sets. And then my 3 greatest hits. The other one that I already showed is off to the side right now. But anyway, if I'm going to pull out my favorites here, I don't think there's going to be any great surprises here. Here's one of them, Headquarters, the one where they got as close as they ever got to really, truly being a proper self-contained band in their original run. Then the follow-up, the kind of mixed mode Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones LTD, which I actually like a bit better than Headquarters, but Headquarters is still quite good. And then this is going to be totally on brand for me. My personal favorite, the Head soundtrack. And even though there's only like, yeah, I know that text arrangement is not good, but even though there's only like 7 proper songs on here, I think they're all winners. So, yeah. So let me see if I can get these out of the way without making a terrible mess. I actually really love this movie, the Monkees feature-length film Head, which at the time was a total bomb, which would make sense given their fan base. But in retrospect, it makes more sense. And of course, their whole catalogs had a total reappraisal over the years. But to me, this movie makes perfect sense. I don't think it's, oh, you have to be on drugs to understand it. If you've seen even a couple episodes of the TV series, this should make some degree of sense, because this plays kind of by the same rules as the TV show, but everything is about deconstruction. Deconstructing the myth and the legend, if you will, of the Monkees. And, you know, how they were manufactured, a fake group, so to speak, and on and on and on. And yes, Rhino dropped the ball with this DVD. They misspelled Terry Garr's name there. And really amusing, on the back here, this is still apparently VHS, if you look right above my finger there. I mean, this really is a full, proper, legal Rhino home video DVD from the probably early 2000s. But yeah, they just kind of took the existing VHS issue of it and slapped it on here. And I've seen this on Laserdisc a couple of times, but I've never picked it up. It's always been kind of pricey for what I'd be willing to pay for it. And of course, this has had a real restoration since then, but it hasn't had a standalone release. I keep waiting for that standalone Blu-ray or 4K of this, but it just hasn't happened yet. So from there, I should really move on to 33 1/3 revolutions per monkey, but I'm going to take a little detour here. I'd like to end with 33 1/3. So anyway, in more recent years, I've just kind of started picking up little Monkees, things that I just missed the first time, just to see what they were like. And so here's a couple of them. And yeah, I was making fun of Pool It earlier, but I nonetheless picked up the Heart and Soul companion VHS tape from '88. And this was also on Laserdisc. But I've mentioned I've warmed up to the song over the years, Heart and Soul, but man, most of that album just does not sit well with me. And they did their darndest to scrub Michael Nesmith out of this. You'd think there were only ever 3 Monkees. And this is kind of a sad watch to me, because it's the 3 now middle-aged Monkees who seem to just really need the paycheck and just wanted the comeback and all that. And I don't know. It was worth at least one watch, but yeah, I found it to be a bit of a sad affair. So otherwise, here's a documentary called Hey Hey We're the Monkees. And it's a pretty shallow documentary. If you even kind of half know the history of the group up through 1970 or so, then you already know more than what's on here. So the only reasons to watch this are for some of the ephemera that pops up throughout this thing. And this breaks away for whole songs or near complete songs, and it's totally disruptive. And this has never been reissued. There are DVDs of this kicking around, but they're all bootlegs. But there is one really great reason to have this, and this is old school Rhino at its best. And that is, after this finishes, after the end credits, you get like 20 minutes of just little interviews with each individual Monkee, and they're just telling little stories, little anecdotes about their heyday, and very funny ones oftentimes. And that winds up being what the real keeper is. Now, I have seen this on YouTube, but it's missing that last 20 minutes. I understand the DVD bootlegs are missing the last 20 minutes and are probably a bit edited beyond that. So yeah, unfortunately, if you want to see this as a proper whole work, hopefully you still got a VHS deck kicking around. So anyway, now we'll get to 33 1/3 revolutions per monkey. So I picked up this tape. I would have still been in high school. And if you think Head was a trip, this is 10 times the trip that Head was. And this was shot on video as well, videotape quadruplex, and it has that whole flavor going on. So it winds up truly being more surreal than the Head film. Now, if I know my history right, when this first aired as a one-off, somebody screwed up and put each individual segment out of order, and that just made it weirder more than anything else. And then this came out, this particular video came out in '96 with all the other stuff, and they carried over the wrong sequencing. And it's only been in the DVD era that it's finally been corrected. So if I pull out season 2 again here, it is on this set. It's the last thing on there. Now, getting back to this DVD set again, there are 2 potential audio commentaries to listen to with 33 1/3. One is with Mickey Dolenz, and one is with Brian Auger. And if you've seen the special, then you learn pretty quickly who he is. But it made me interested in him and his music, and it made me really kind of a fan. And so I figured as a little nod here, I'd pull out my favorite Brian Auger album. But yeah, in this case, it was still Brian Auger, Julie Driscoll, and the Trinity. This is from the much later Oblivion Express. But in the commentary that Auger does, and it's a far better commentary than Dolenz does, at least Auger attempts to try and make sense of what's going on and seemed to have a much clearer memory of what was happening with the making of it. He mentions that a fan sent him a videotape years later of the special, and it was, I don't remember if he said it was off air or not, but it had commercials on it, and that he was just happy to see it. I'm not entirely sure he got to see the special at the time because he had to get back to England. But I can't help but wonder if what he saw wasn't this. So we'll close things out with this. This is a bootleg of 33 1/3 revolutions per monkey from 1986. Didn't get an official home video release till 96. And somebody went to the trouble of scrubbing out the RCA, part of the RCA Columbia home video logo, but yet tried to add all this stuff to kind of make it look official, and all sorts of liner notes and stuff. But anyway, Auger mentioned, commercials and stuff, and I'm wondering if he didn't see this because I wound up having to take notes on what was on here. I know my chicken scratch is impossible to read, but it's a network feed of the special, seemingly from WNBC in New York, but with gaps, just black screen gaps where local ads or IDs or whatever should be. Now, the quality on this is just atrocious. I don't know what generation dub this is, but I was going to actually harvest the commercials and post them to Archive Annex, but somebody else already has, and they're in way better quality than what I've got. So this is just a curiosity of mine that I've had kicking around for a few years now. But if somebody did care enough to write that you could also get this on X2 Betamax, and the date this was run off in 1986, and I guess I got the lucky copy number 13 here, and this still had the record tab in it at the time, but I've pulled it out. So anyway, I mentioned I wrote down what's on it because it's not just 33 1/3, but it's also the episode of The Ed Sullivan Show where the Beatles made their American debut. And it's the whole episode. I had never seen it. It's a terrible copy, and it's got genlock issues on it. Everything just kind of goes into like quarters at times. It's just a total mess. No time-based correction, no nothing. Same goes for the 33 1/3. But yeah, it was kind of cool to finally get to see that episode of Ed Sullivan in its entirety. I'd only ever seen clips of it, and not even entire Beatles tunes. Now, incidentally, Davy Jones happened to be one of the guests the night that the Beatles debuted in America. He was doing some show tunes. So it certainly fits here now, doesn't it? And not just the meeting of the Fab Four and the Prefab Four, but on a different level. And then at the end, you get randomly just 3 minutes of David Bowie doing the tune 1984 as Ziggy Stardust. And then the thing just cuts off. So yeah, I guess you could say in a weird way, this is kind of the gem of my collection. It doesn't have any great value to it. And again, you can actually see the entire special with commercials elsewhere in better quality, just like even on archive.org, I believe. So, you know, you can look that up if you want to, but yeah, it's kind of cool to have. Otherwise, I feel like I've rambled way more than enough here, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I'll talk to you again soon.